All right, everybody, what is up? Today, we are going to be focusing on the logo design for SideBling.com. Now, this is a part of a playlist, an ongoing series where I show you exactly how I design the branding and identity, the UI UX, and also the development process in Cursor using AI to create a project where people will be able to go enter their skills and hobbies, and the AI will spit out in a really cool format, and it'll communicate with multiple APIs. It'll spit out a bunch of different ideas, essentially, in terms of how they can go about monetizing their skills and interests. So today, like I said, we're going to be focusing on the logo design, and we're going to be working with an Adobe Illustrator, and this is super fun. We're going to come up with a concept by the end of it, and then we're going to move on to the next video by working on the UI and the UX of this project. Now, if you really want to learn a lot about this stuff, definitely check out DesignCourse.com, where I have full projects and courses like this that are even more robust using a lot of different tech. So definitely check that out. Let's get started. Okay, so let us begin here in Adobe Illustrator. That's what I'm going to be using here. You could use a lot of different things like Figma Draw, for instance. Anything vector, but still the de facto industry standard amongst brand designers is typically going to be Adobe Illustrator, as it's been for, I don't know, a couple decades now. So the first thing we do is get out the type tool, hit T, and then we're going to specify the name. Now, typically, I will specify the name in all just lowercase, all capitalized, and then also kind of capitalizing the first letter of any words that are involved in the name. So this is SideBling, so this might be SideBling here. I'm going to make this larger in a second. SideBling there, can't see that, and then SideBling here. Okay, so what this looks like, if I scale this all the way up, it's kind of like this. And you can go to your fonts list up here. I don't actually have a ton of fonts installed, and if you don't end up finding a font that you like, then you could do something like go to one of the many various font sites. One that's been up for ages is defont.com. You can actually go here, specify the name of your font that you want to see. The actual like SideBling, for instance. Let's do like LCD. Enter your text here, SideBling. There you go. So you can scroll fonts that way to see if there's something that catches your eye. And so what I'll do is just start up here at the top, and then you can, with it selected, kind of use your keyboard down arrow key to just go through these quickly to see if there's something that simply catches your eye. And you could also do the same thing by looking at the little previews up here as well. So essentially, for this project, it's called SideBling, and the idea, of course, is it's an AI service that will help people figure out how to monetize their skills and hobbies and interests. Now, if we think about the name itself, SideBling, bling being the keyword, what exactly do you think about? What emotions arise when you think about bling, right? So if you go to like images.google, for instance, and you type in bling, okay. Look at this guy. So this is what people will commonly think about: bling, jewelry, little, I guess you could say, lens flares, glares, and the things that are just bright, right? And it has a certain, maybe almost like hip hopish feel. So with that in mind, I'm not going to choose something like although I guess you could say that would be high-end type of bling, but I'm not going to choose something like maybe Times New Roman might be a better example. This wouldn't make sense to me using this type of font. I want mine to be kind of bold. I want it to be not very serious, because also consider what this is. This is a side hustle type thing. It's not like a wealth management fund, right? So we need to think about that too. This is side hustle, a way to make money on the side. These are people that, just they want to monetize hobbies. It's not extremely serious. So that's what I wanted to those are the emotions I wanted to convey in the type itself. So the font that you choose is obviously important, and its font can speak to that sort of thing. So what I'm going to do is, one font I found that I like is right here. Now, of course, there's no lowercase version of this font. That's all uppercase. And I kind of just like how it feels a little bit silly. you know, with the B, for instance, which I think I'm going to flip that upside down. I would like the taller portion up here. But this is bold. It's kind of in your face, but it's not serious. And I think it matches the tone very well in terms of what I'm looking for. So what I'll do from here, once I was like, okay, I like this font, maybe we'll just hit Alt and left click and drag it off to the side, and we can keep on going through fonts that we like, and then we can come down and narrow it down. Like here's another one. It's kind of similar, but you know, it could be a potential option. I don't know. So then once you have the font chose, now it's time to decide, okay, do I want this to be like a combination logo where we have an external symbol, or do we just want it to be a word mark of some sort? So a word mark would simply be a logo that's based on the type. I really like a word mark style logos myself. It's kind of simple. And so that's what we're going to approach for this one. Thinking of ways in which we can reinforce the idea of the business through the typography alone, and do it so that it's unique and not obvious. You know, obvious would be putting a bunch of glows and flares all over the place and diamonds and stuff. I don't want to do that. We can hint at that stuff, but it should be simple, and it should be abstract and relevant. So what I'll do is, we already have a copy of our original type here. And what I'll do here is hit Control-Shift-O, not the number 0, but the actual letter. Control-Shift-O will convert everything to outlines here. So then I could take this, right-click, and ungroup. Now we have access to each one of these individually rather. And so one thing I could do here is hit Transform, Reflect, and we'll change this to horizontal. All right, so now we flip that B right there. Okay, so SideBling. What I would do now is start to experiment with the placement of the type. We have two words here, so this could work in the context of SideBling just like that, or it could work in the context of taking side and putting it on top of bling. There's nothing says that you can't do that. So I kind of like how it's more of a condensed block right here. I don't know why. It's just sometimes you're going to find arrangements like this, whether it be through type or just, you know, a concept that resonates with you. And when we put them on top, it kind of opens up some possibilities in terms of how we can make these letters play into each other in order to perhaps experiment and find something that, that's interesting what we just did there. That kind of has a play on this concept or this concept. So what I'll do now is, we'll just take this one, put this up over here in the corner, and now we have just side and bling on top of each other. There's nothing really special about this. So now what I'll do is sit here and think about, okay, what can we do with these letters that might be interesting? All right, well, the first thing that we can do, and by the way, I'll take a copy of this, stick this way up here, okay? Maybe we could do something like this. Notice how the L and the I right here are kind of like right here in the same path. And if we were to take this, we can match them up sort of. We could just take the I, delete it. All right. Kind of strange looking. Does it quite make sense? I don't know. It definitely would make it a little bit more difficult for people to understand that this is side and this is bling, maybe not so much, but is there any type of sort of concept that would be relevant to doing this, making this letter, you know, this extend up through both of them? Well, you could say side bling, these are two connected ideas. It's on the side and you're trying to make money, so we're going to connect them literally through the letter forms themselves. You could make that argument. You could say, for instance, you know, maybe you want to do a play on growth, you know, make growing your money. So what you could do is just come over here, choose the polygon tool, left click once and choose 3 sides, hit OK. We'll create a little arrow and we can make it rounded just like all the other edges here are rounded in the type because you want things to be consistent. We'll move this over here. And it's like, okay, do we like that? I don't know. We could scale it down a bit. Okay, that's one possible concept. It's not hitting it out of the park for me. So I'll just copy this. We'll put it up here. Again, there's a variation of concept 1. Okay, let's delete this. Let's go back. Let's put this up here. We can keep on playing with this with a bunch of different variations. This is the name of the game. So now what we could do, like, oh, what about this empty spot here? It kind of doesn't, I don't like it, you know? So what if we take this, and by the way, when you have baked in corners right here and you scale it down, look what it does to the corners. It squashes it. So you don't want to do that. You want to switch to the direct selection tool so that you only take, for instance, just these bottom 4 vertices. He'll hold shift, bring them up. There we go. So now I can grab these top ones without grabbing this. Now if you grab another letter, just hold shift, left click once, left click twice, and then it will deselect that selection. So now we're going to put this, we want to try to get equal white space around here, here, and here, which we can fine tune that later once we have the concept actually flushed out. So now we have bling sitting on top or to the side of L. So let's bring this over. Good. Try to get equal white space all around. Okay, that's kind of interesting. That's definitely, you know, a cohesive little concept that we could potentially use. So what I'll do is Alt and left click drag. That saves it, or copies it rather. So here's a couple concepts already, and how long have we been recording? You know, I mean, this obviously goes pretty quick. All right, so let's do another idea here. Maybe you want to see another adjustment where maybe we don't extend the L. All right, but we keep the little I that is next to the L. So we're going to bring this down. We're going to get, let's see here. We'll get rid of side here. Just copy these. Now again, one thing I just did there, I kind of scaled this up. These now won't be perfectly the exact same size, which again, this is a very early kind of exploratory thing. I would want to redo this to make sure everything's perfectly the same size in terms of the both words. But again, we're just iterating fast here. So here's another concept where, yeah, it is definitely more readable. So if we were to take this one, copy it real quick, view them side by side, SideBling, you know, you can clearly see it's easier to read side here than it is here because of this long, you know, extension of the L. So that's something to consider, and you could throw this, you know, this idea, show the idea to other designers, other friends, non-designers, and just try to get feedback on what they think. So I'm going to delete this one, and believe it or not, yes, we can come up with even more concepts. So perhaps we'll take, we already saved this concept, didn't we? No, we didn't. Let's get that right up there. Okay, what about doing this? Let's take side, push it to the side of bling. Okay, now what? Well, now what could we do potentially? Well, let's get bling. Let's get our regular bling back, and I will increase this size here. Now real quick, just to make sure we're roughly the same size. We are. We'll put that right there. Okay, what if we do this? Here's another play on this concept here. Try to get the two eyes matching. All right, so now we'll extend this one down. Does this make any sense? Well, how about this? Let's do the same thing that we did before. We could take this direct selection tool, move up. We're going to go ahead and move this to the side. There we go, roughly right around there. We'll adjust the NG here in a second. Let's get this position back down. Equal white space here. From here, roughly just eyeballing it at this point. Move the NG over. Okay, so there's two more concepts or variations of concept one. I would call all this a concept, and these are slight variations where we're trying to nail down the ultimate concept, the single concept that we're working with. So as you can see, we've come up with a lot of different options between all of these. And I think we could probably come up even with a few more. For instance, let's say we get this one. Let's bring this up. And then let's literally shift this off to the side. We can, play around with this concept even further just by shifting it to the side, like thus SideBling. So now, if we were to take all these concepts, we would have a lot of different options here to choose from. So if I take these two, maybe get them up here. Take these two, put them over here. We got a lot of different concepts that we can nail down, or variations of concepts, in terms of like, okay, this is the one that everybody seems to like once you fish this out enough to try to seek, opinions and such. And again, this whole purpose of this project, we're not trying to get stuck too much on one part and overthink one part, because there's a lot of parts of this process of building out this whole app. This is just one aspect. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this section. What I will say is the one that I ended up liking the most personally is the one where we have actually, did I even create the one where I ultimately decided to use? I don't even think I did. All right, so I'm going to get another artboard. So this right here, artboard tool. And what I will choose is we're going to take this one, copy it, paste this over here. All right. And the one that I'm going to use is just simply shifting this over here to the side. All right. And for that one, we want to make sure bling and side are this eye right here is directly on top of the eye right here. So what that will mean is we will push this over here, and we're going to adjust some of the letter spacing. We want the letter spacing to be as even as possible. So I may end up spreading these letters out just a bit more. So we have to determine essentially what is good white space between these letters. So what I'll do is take the rectangle tool, and we're going to establish this as our baseline for the white space between the various areas. And I'll change the color real quick. All right, so if we move this over here to here, we can see that there is definitely a discrepancy. And then if we move and hit Shift and Alt again, that will just replicate it while you drag down. We could see, okay, so this is a pretty wide gap comparatively to this and this at the bottom. So what I might do is actually revert and just use this white space. And now I can move this over here. There we go. And then this down here will replicate it and just rotate it, holding Shift real quick. Gives us to 90 degrees. This right here is super close, so we could just move this down slightly. Now if we move it down, then we'll see that this type up here, or the top portion of that eye, needs to match right there. You'll see the guides, the height of the rest. Take this over here. We can start pushing these out. Now if I extend this out in this area, there we go. I'm going to make this portion be the one that matches up. All right, so now that we have all those, and we have equal white space between the type and the words themselves, we can take this top one and position it so that the two eyes are basically directly over. I'm okay with it not being perfectly over here and centered, but now these two being perfectly above each other, I like that look a lot more. All right, So one final thing that we could do, we could say, okay, we're happy with this right now as our first concept. What we can do is think, okay, is there anything else that we would want to integrate into this? Or is this sufficient alone? This could certainly be sufficient in and of itself. But I kind of did want to add a little bit of a play on the flare bling concept, but do so in a tasteful, minimal way, and integrate it within the type. So one idea that I have is to kind of put like a glare right here, like integrated into this portion. So one thing we could do to do that is we can come out here with the star tool, left click once, and we'll choose 4 points. Hit OK. All right, and I'm going to rotate this around. And if I switch to this tool right here, which is the free transform tool, we can kind of I guess you can't do that. Oh well, no big deal. What we can do is this instead. I'm going to take the top, 18 times, and then I hit the up arrow key 18 times. So I'm going to hit the down arrow 18 times here as well. All right, and I'll bring these down too. All right, and then right here, if we select this, you can see these little circles. That'll give us a little bit of a rounded corners all around. Now, if I shrink this, we can kind of see how thick this will end up being if we turn it white and put it right over here. So I think it might be a little bit too thick still for my liking. So we can take these with the direct selection tool, maybe just twice. All right, that's a little bit better perhaps. And what I'm going to do is kind of rotate this around. Hit I on your keyboard to grab the white background, making it white. And then I don't want ones coming out to the side, so I will delete those. All right, so it looks like we have kind of like this little glare occurring here. Now, one thing that we could do, especially if let's just drag this in, is get this kind of centered up where they're equal distance from here to here, from here to there. And one thing you could do is, if you wanted to do it quickly, if you're kind of familiar with the pen tool, you can kind of like integrate little corners like this to kind of get an idea real quickly of what that would look like, to see how it kind of integrates, because everything else in the type of this logo for this font is rounded corners. So it would make sense to do rounded corners. Now, like I said, this is a quick way of doing it. There's a more appropriate way of using perfect circles once you have the concept kind of finalized. So we'll get to that here. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just doing this real quickly to see this is what that would look like. Now let's go ahead and make it perfectly fleshed out. Okay. So now if we look at this, we kind of have our little bling effect. And again, it's subtle, which is what I like. And what we could do, just having looked at this, is take the ellipse tool, and let's say we imagine something like this. Something that follows the contour of that little flare, that bling flare. We get rid of the fill. We choose a black background color, a stroke rather, and then take the stroke, or this right here. We're going to choose this option, width profile 3. And then what I'll do is rotate this around so the thin side's over here. And then I will take that path. We'll use the add anchor point tool. Just left click and drag out from the pen tool. And I'm going to probably click right around here. I'm going to add an anchor point and then right down here. add an anchor point. And then we're going to see if there's one in the middle. There is. We can take the direct selection tool, take that one in the middle, hit delete. Almost looks like that Intel Inside logo. Okay, so now what I'll do is increase the size. Now, I wouldn't integrate this into the actual logo, but the reason I did this is because I think we're going to create a jitter animation reconstruction of the logo, but maybe even use Rive as well, which if you don't know Rive, never mind. But what we could do is maybe as a loader, we can make the logo itself the loader, because when we're waiting on the AI to give us a response, we can have this little arc animate real quick and reveal this little flare. And so it requires a little bit of mental foresight into what that could look like, but it could look really cool, especially with the motion integrated into this while something is loaded and this flare is kind of reacting to this arc that passes through it. That would be pretty cool, I think. So what I'll do now is I just save that little idea over here. And if we were happy with this, what we would do at this point is, remember how I mentioned the perfect circle idea? What we could do is just to demonstrate it here. So if you take the ellipse tool and hold Shift and Alt, left click and drag, you can get these situated so that they integrate with each other or overlap just barely slightly. There is a more appropriate way to do this with grids and everything, make sure everything snaps perfect. But this is a quick project, and you would use the Shape Builder tool in order to literally get rid of these lines. So what I'll do though, just for this quick demo, is real quickly make sure everything is, see like right here, if I zoom up, that's not ideal. It's kind of going past that section. So we want to take these anchor points and make sure everything is perfectly kind of integrated and not overextending in areas that we don't want it to, just for now. All right. So now what you could do is take all these paths right there, along with the S, and then we could go to Window Transform, which lines up, and then choose Pathfinder right here, and then choose this, Divide. All right, so now when we divide that, we have the option to delete all these various things that this shape is now transparent in those areas. And that's important because now if I take everything, we'll see if there's anything left over. Now that's important because if we were to change the background color, you wouldn't want those white things sitting there. So now it's completely transparent. So now if I were to take another artboard real quick. All right. Take our logo. I'm going to get rid of that. All right. And then change the background color. So I'm going to add a rectangle here. Get rid of the stroke at 0 and give it a kind of maybe a green color fill of sorts. We will extend this out. Let's get this to the bottom here. There we go. I will lock that layer and we're going to make it white. So now, white. It's kind of a bright green, so we could always take that green color and make it a little bit darker. And we could say, this is maybe perhaps would be the primary color that we use for SideBling. All right, almost sounds like sibling. So there we go. Very quickly, we've knocked out all these variations. It's a simple logo, but it's really, I like it though. I think we could also do something really cool with the animation for this little eye where it's kind of situated next to it at full size, and then it kind of like hops over and scales down, like jumping to the side, thus SideBling. There's all really cool things that we could do with this logo to make it super unique. So at this point, I'm going to conclude this video. We will flesh out the actual identity, the visual identity design as we build out the UI itself. It's not like you have to have everything done with the identity before you hop into the UI. There's no rules saying that you can't do that. So we'll experiment further with that. And in the next lesson or next video here, I think what we'll do is probably start to get working on the actual UI and UX. All right, I'll see y'all soon.